Engineering isn't just about what we build, it's about the people who make it possible. This is the AECOM Early Careers podcast series, created in partnership with Engineer a Career. Here, we go beyond job titles and projects to uncover the real stories of the people shaping our world. You'll hear from apprentices, graduates and early career professionals who are building their future at AECOM, sharing how they got here, what drives them, the lessons they've learned along the way. From tackling the challenges of clean energy and sustainability to finding purpose through design, infrastructure and innovation, these are stories of growth, ambition and impact. Whether you're job hunting, exploring your next step, or just curious about life after university, this is your inside look into what it means to build a career that truly makes a difference. The AECOM Early Careers podcast series, powered by Engineer a Career. Welcome to the Engineer a Career podcast with AECOM. In this episode, I'll explore Make an Impact That Lasts with Meegan, Worcester, and Gemma, Maynard.
Thank you.
Awesome to have you both here. It's going to be so exciting to explore both of your careers, your career at AECOM so far, and what type of advice you're going to give to early career professionals that are looking to follow in your footsteps.
Yeah.
So let's dive straight in to a quick fire question to get to know you both better. Starting off with yourself, Gemma, what's one thing you can't start your day without?
Oh, this is a little embarrassing to admit, but I'm highly addicted to the LinkedIn games. Every morning, got to start with all of the games, gets the brain firing, and I quite like the little leaderboard that's like, oh, you've done better than someone else in your friends list. Yeah,
I do those too. I do Zip It. I do mini Sudoku. I hate Queens.
No, I like Queens. I'm like puzzles, math patterns. It's the wordy ones I can't deal with.
Yeah, but it's like Zip It's so quick, whereas Queens I can spend minutes on it. I hate that one.
I spend my time doing posts on LinkedIn, so I don't do any of the
See,
games.
that's not as fun.
I know, I'm really very boring. So that's a good start. Two of you got something in common. What's one thing on your bucket list, Gemma?
So I'm a massive member of Girl Guiding, really, really passionate about it. And I would love to visit all 5 of the world centres. So far, I've done the London one, nice and easy, and the Switzerland one. But I need to travel slightly further afield to India, Mexico and Africa for the remaining 3. So hopefully in my lifetime, I'll tick off all 5.
Sounds like an excuse to squeeze in some travel in there, I think.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
What about your best musician you've seen live?
I think that would have to be Hailstorm. They're an American female-fronted, like heavy rock band, but Lizzie Hale, her voice is just incredible, and she can pull it off live too. And she always is on stage with her like electric guitar and like 8-inch pleaser heels, just walking around like absolutely stealing the show. They're absolutely awesome, and I've got tickets to see them again soon, and I'm really, really excited.
That's awesome, amazing. And what would you pick? Unlimited free flights or unlimited free food?
See, this is difficult because I hate flying. I absolutely detest it. I like boats, I like water, but flights are also expensive. So I think free flights, because I like to travel still and I just suffer the entire journey there. But I'm happy once I get there. So free flights for me.
Yeah, suffer for the outcome, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So over to you, Meegan. What's one thing to start your day without? Is it?
It's the games. It's my mini Sudoku. It's my Zip It. Next question.
Absolutely. So not caffeine for either of you then.
No.
What's one thing on your bucket list?
See, it's very cliche, but I would say skydiving, just because it would really scare me. And I know lots of people do it, but I'm really small and I just want to know like how hard the G-force, is it G-force?
G-force, yeah.
G-force is.
Absolutely, sounds good. And who's the best musician you've seen live? Or it could be a group.
Well, I didn't go to concerts when I was younger because I lived in Saudi at the time and they didn't have concerts there. So my first concert was a Macklemore concert, but I didn't know who he was. I just went with my friend because she needed someone to go with her, and he was all right. Actually, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean that's a good enough reason to go to a gig.
Yeah,
I would definitely see Macklemore if I had the choice now. But I guess if you didn't know, then
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with stumbling into some new music.
Yeah, he was all right. I don't really like rap, but it was pretty good.
And if you had the choice between unlimited free flights and unlimited free food, what would you go with?
See, Gemma, you said that flights are expensive and you're like, that might turn you off a bit. See, food can also be expensive depending on your
Yeah,
taste.
this is true. This is true. And you always need it.
Yeah. So I would go with food purely because then you didn't say what type of food.
No, sorry.
So I can go with, caviar, oysters,
Wagyu steak.
world's finest steak. Yeah, wagyu steak.
Yeah, there was
all that.
nothing in if you take the free flights, you won't get food. So
Yeah.
so you can I'm sure you can
So-
still get food there. You have to pay though, unfortunately, for the food.
That just doesn't make it free.
I know. Well, I'm excited to explore both of your careers and the different routes and professions that you obviously both have, which is different, still within similar the kind of engineering functions, but very much different. So yourself, Meegan, you're a graduate sustainability consultant, and for Gemma, you're a maritime engineer.
Yes.
Excellent. So let's dive straight in then, and starting with yourself, Gemma, what sparked your interest in engineering?
I think I've got to think back to my childhood with this one. And although they're not now, both my parents were engineers when I was growing up. My mum worked in a factory. She was quality control. I literally grew up with blueprints on the table. So it's kind of no surprise that both me and my brother are engineers now. And I think I also really keenly remember doing this like primary school project, and we had to pick a historical figure. And for some reason, I don't remember why I chose Isambard Kingdom Brunel. So I had to learn about like stuff he'd done, and it was just, it really stuck in my mind. And I think that's kind of where it came from. And yeah, it's no surprise I ended up in engineering, to be fair, from family and kind of projects at primary school.
Yeah.
And it really does start that early, whether you realise it or not. Yeah.
I talk about it a lot as the engineering mindset. A lot of people kind of find the engineering mindset before they line it up with actually a career in engineering. So like, whether it's your STEM classes, maths, a physics or science based, but also the kind of process approach that you think, the thought process.
Logical thinking, that kind of desire to solve problems.
That's it.
It's all around that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which discipline you end up working in, it is problem solving.
And where did you study and what did you study?
So I studied at the University of Plymouth. So my undergrad is in civil and coastal engineering. And then I changed up, got the bachelor's, and then I did a master's of science in offshore renewable energy engineering instead. It was a bit of a risk. It was the first year of its course, but I'd done all my undergrad dissertations in kind of integrating wave energy devices into coastal defences. So it was really of an interest to me, and my tutor was starting up this new course, and I was like, yeah, I like the sound of that. So jumped across to offshore renewables for my master's, and ended up at AECOM in the ports team. So it kind of married the two, the watery energy engineering side of things with kind of civils and coastal. So kind of ended up in a pretty good place, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. So you remember the Institute of Civil Engineers?
Yes, I am working towards my chartership, hopefully applying soon. Maybe even by the time this podcast airs, will be applied.
Well, that's awesome.
Waiting for interview dates and things like that. So fingers crossed.
That's a big milestone, so all the best with that.
Thank you.
And over to yourself, Gemma, you're a graduate sustainability consultant.
Yes.
Why sustainability? What did you study? And well, first and foremost, why sustainability? What inspired you to move into that?
Well, like Gemma said, I think it starts earlier than doing it at university. I think it's because when I was doing my A levels, I remember for geography, because I did geography A level, I just remember at the end of each topic, so whether it was coasts or if it was superpowers or whether it's human or physical geography, at the end of each chapter, they would always talk about the future and say, well, what's in the future? How can we solve the world's issues? So when it came to coasts, they're receding because of all the environmental pressures on the coastline with the weather and the corrosion. With superpowers, we're thinking about like the Arctic as a landscape it's very different countries want different resources from the Arctic, but how do you actually preserve the landscape? And I just thought the end of each chapter was so interesting, more interesting than the rest of it. And then I remember when it came to applying for university, they would have all the different prospectuses prospecti of all the different universities. And I remember just looking at the Leeds University. I was just looking alphabetically, really, and I came across S. And then I saw sustainability and environmental management. And I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. What's that? And I read into it, and I actually became obsessed over the university overnight. I was on the website. I was looking at what they do. They had a research institute at the university, and they studied everything related to sustainability, pollution, population, different things and different topics. And so that's kind of how I got into studying at uni, and then ended up doing my master's as well at Leeds, and that was in sustainability and consultancy. And I just kept going down that route, really.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And how has the reality of working within a role in sustainability lived up to your expectations when you were studying?
Well, the reason I loved it when I studied it is because there was just so many different topics to learn about. There's so much going on, and there's so much. It's such a interesting industry because it's always evolving and developing. There's not a one fit solution to anything and any problem. You have to think interdisciplinarily, tongue twister. And you have to work with different people, and you have to think of everyone and how everyone's going to be affected by different changes in the future. And I just thought that was such an interesting and compelling reason to study it. And now that I'm working in the industry, I can see there's loads of different challenges that our clients face, whether they're in rail or if they're in water or if they're in the built environment. Everyone has different challenges, but ultimately everyone wants to get to the same end goal, which is to, hopefully we live a better life in the next 5, 10, 15 years.
So there's obviously going to be a lot of early career professionals listening and watching this podcast.
Yeah.
So tell us about your role since you joined AECOM.
Yeah.
So you've been there for just shy of 2 years now, is that right?
Yeah, 2 years, I think. Next week. Woo, anniversary. I think it's just been a mix of things. I've been involved in, as I said, different sectors. So I've been involved in sustainable infrastructure. I've been involved in rail projects recently, looking at BREEAM infrastructure assessments. So assessing, if I was to name drop a project, it's the Transpennine Route Upgrade. And that's been quite interesting, seeing how the BREEAM infrastructure assessment assesses everything from how the project is looking after its ecology to the communities that are being impacted by the project. So that's a bit of what I've been doing there. I've been looking into carbon management, different types of organizations, whether they're, again, sustainable infrastructure, but also corporate clients. Been doing a range, really. It's always very, very different. Climate resilient work, looking at creating these risk assessments that we can give to different clients, looking at their different assets and how they may be impacted by different weather conditions in the future. So yeah, a real mix, but I've really enjoyed the mix, and I don't know if I'm going to specialize anytime soon because I'm enjoying it so far as it is, but maybe one day.
That's why consultant needs to stay in the name title
then. Yeah, I'm a generalist.
No, don't put yourself down. So over to yourself, Gemma. In terms of since you joined AECOM, how have you talk me through your role and the types of work you've been involved in as well?
Yeah, so I started just over 3 years ago now. Started off working on some kind of small coastal projects down in Cornwall. They were really nice little projects to get involved with at the start because it was like, this is my project for me. And just kind of developed from there. I've worked across a lot of defence MOD style projects where kind of as design engineers. And I've had one project that I've been on since I started with the company. And I've gone from kind of being the admin assistant, and I've kind of, the role has developed through to taking on kind of more of a technical lead role. And with the second phase of the contract that we've just won, taking on the deputy project manager role. So I'm a nice mix between kind of design engineer, don't go too into detail, can't do my finite element analysis and things like that, but it's kind of starting to take on some more project managerial roles for kind of some of the projects that we've got. So yeah, it's been a real mix, but a bit like Meegan, I've had projects from all over, kind of coastal defences that are 16 metres long, up to kind of working with the Royal Navy and working on some pretty major projects with kind of over 500 people working on them. So a bit like Meegan, I really do like the variety, and I like the fact that I get to kind of almost pick and choose some of the work that comes in and what I want to work on and what I want to be a part of. So that's been a really nice part of being at AECOM as well. Yeah.
I talk about it a lot in the podcast around the projects and people are the foundation of your career. And in your case, Gemma, having, built up experience across different roles within the project in essence, it's sometimes quite a good thing to look back on that and reflect on where you kind of came from.
Yeah.
Certainly in such a short period.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of that reflecting recently, obviously trying to prepare my application for chartership. It's kind of, where have I come in the last 3 years while I've been here? What roles have I done? What responsibilities have I taken? And actually, when you write it all down, you kind of go, I actually have done quite a lot in the last 3 years, and maybe I am ready for this next professional step. So yeah, it's been quite nice actually being forced to reflect on my career so far as a whole, and not just looking back at the past year with the kind of performance cycle. It's actually just the whole lot. It's been really nice to look back, and it's been quite reassuring to be able to look forward as well and be like, well, actually, what is next? Because as an early professional, kind of chartership's the goal. That's where you want to end up. And it's like, but what happens when you're chartered? What happens when I don't have to write a progress report every 3 months now? And you want to make sure that actually your professional development doesn't just stop at that point, and that's the next step, isn't it? You get chartered, and then actually, what is next?
Well, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, it is
sometimes
exciting.
the unknown is exciting.
It is.
And what about yourself then, Meegan? Has there been any project that you've worked on since starting at AECOM that stands out for you?
There's a few. I think for me, it's been, I mentioned the Transpennine Route Upgrade purely because it's one of those projects where I've got to speak for the first time to people, not just external client, like the client who we're helping with the project, with the BREEAM infrastructure assessment, but also internally. So a lot of our teams in AECOM, whether it's the ecology team, the water team, they're also working on this project. And as part of a BREEAM assessor, you need to source different evidence from these different teams and say, right, can you show me an example of how this project is meeting their flood risk adaptation targets? Can you show me that this project is not, polluting loads of land? Can you show me any evidence of that? And it's been a great project because it's meant I've had that opportunity to talk to people within the business and actually understand how everything works. Because that is what sustainability is at the end of the day. It's thinking, how is everyone trying to meet the end goal? And getting that perspective. But then it's also, I've been able and very, very lucky to actually speak to the alliance, so the people who are on the Network Rail side and actually trying to do the work on their side and on the ground, and being like, right, can you give me evidence of how it's actually being constructed sustainably and whatever that is, and then I can put it into the assessment. So I think it's been really good for me in terms of my career development, being confident to speak to different people. And also I've just been able to actually see the benefit of the assessment itself and how it's been contributing to the overall goal, and hopefully to meet Network Rail's targets as a client. So that's been quite fun. The other projects I've been quite lucky to work on as well. We're involved with a FTSE 250 company, a food and beverage corporate client. And at the start of when I was with AECOM, within the first couple of weeks, they were looking at creating a deforestation policy, just because of the EUDR, so the EU deforestation regulation that was coming in, and I think it's still ongoing at the time right now as we speak. They wanted to understand how their competitors were doing in that space of what was their deforestation policies looking like. And so I got to do all this research and to really understand how their products would be affected by the regulation. And so that was just a very interesting look on how different changing things at even the EU level can affect a client, and how we can support them. So very different projects, but very fulfilling.
Is the one that stands out that's had the kind of most meaningful impact?
I think the Transpennine Route Upgrade for me. Yeah, as I said, because now I've moved to the north. I'm going to be a northerner. I'm nearly married to a northerner soon in the next couple of years. So true northerner over here. So it's nice to see it. And where I'm going to be living, it's going to be running through the route as well. And obviously Leeds Station is getting developed as part of that project. So it's going to be meaningful to see the benefit that I will have from the electrification of the route and having faster trains to work. That'll be nice. But it's also nice to see the effect that it will have on the community, because that's what you care about at the end of the day.
What about yourself, Gemma? Has there been any projects that you've had involvement with communities or stakeholders that you feel there's been a benefit to them as part of the work you've done?
Yeah, so the one that immediately pops to mind is actually the first ever project I worked on. It's little village down in Cornwall, and they have a historic harbour that I think they stopped using in about the 1970s. Basically, the entrance channel is filled up with sand over the years, and now whenever they get large storms, big waves, it all just it runs straight up the beach and fills the harbour basin up and floods the village. So my first project was actually putting in I think 16 metres wide little tiny flood bund in the harbour channel, in between the Grade 1 listed walls, to basically stop the overtopping and stop the village flooding from coastal. And I actually recently, I was speaking about this project at a conference a few weeks back, and the client happened to be in the audience, and he put his hand up for a question, and he said, I know this isn't a question, but did you know that your flood bund was tested about 3 weeks after it was finished building, and it worked? So I know that what I designed and what my team we worked on has actually done its job. And not that I had doubt in our ability, but to know that it has actually prevented flooding in that village, and, businesses and homes weren't underwater during this storm event. I think that's a really meaningful impact, and actually to know that and kind of have that kind of close out on a project, because quite often we do designs, we send them off and that's it. If we're not involved with the build side or the technical supervision, depending on what kind of work we're on, you never really get that closure. So actually to go full loop on that project and actually hear that it's been tested and it worked, that was really nice. And so yeah, I think that's a big one for me. And I think another project, so I was working with the DIO, which is a Defence Infrastructure Organisation. So working on maintaining operational water depths in kind of Portsmouth and Devonport dockyards. And we have a really big stakeholder push on that project. I mean, the user group is massive. We've got all sorts of people in there, from the harbour masters to kind of people that use the ports, people that are affected by what we do, and actually being in that environment, and right from joining the company as a graduate, being introduced to these really quite important people within the Royal Navy, and expected to just kind of pick it up, work out what's going on. And actually three years down the line, I've got some really strong relationships with those people now, and talking to clients doesn't scare me anymore, because I've talked to some bigwig in the Royal Navy and he was fine. So actually, professional development wise, that project's been really, really key for me to kind of get that external, that third party, that client experience, and actually realising they're just people too.
Yeah.
They're just trying to do their jobs the same way we are. And actually collaboration is key. And the better we work together, the better the outcomes are for the project. And I think they're my two big key take home projects.
You've tapped into a topic which I'm quite passionate about sharing with early career professionals, or those about to step into their first role. And it's a common question that comes up I get a lot is from students or those who are just about to graduate, is how am I going to be able to do the job when I've not done it before, in terms of taking on. It's the most common question I say. You'll be surprised the amount of support you get, both from people within your organisation and from clients, if you're integrated with them. Do you both feel the same in terms of that support that you've had, either internally at AECOM or with clients as well? Start with yourself, Meg.
I just think my team's really nice. I hope they're listening. I'm sure they are. I'm sure I've told them all about this. No, I do think that. I think it's just, I think when you work in the environmental and maybe engineering as well, people have come into this role because they want to make a difference, because they want to make an impact. And when you come from that drive and that sense of passion, I find a lot of nice people just gravitate to that kind of job role. And so I feel like from the day one, whenever I've had a question, I've always had an answer and a shoulder to lean on. And like I said, the work I do is quite varied. And so sometimes when I jumped into it, I had that feeling of, oh my God, what am I doing? And there was so much to learn and so much to do. And but I think there's been times where if I've been very specific with what I need and I've made it very, very clear what I've tried to do and where I am missing the information and made that clear, I feel like the response I always get is, well, you've tried to find the answer on your own. That's half of the work done, but I can offer you this instead. And I think if any early careers people are listening, just be very open-minded, but also try and find the answer yourself, because I think a lot of people appreciate that if you've tried to put in the work yourself rather than just going in and saying, oh, someone help me. Yeah, I think you get a lot more respect that way, and you start to build a sense of how you work as well, in whatever job role you're in or whatever sector you decide to go in.
Do you feel similar yourself about that, Gemma? You just mentioned it yourself in terms of the experience you've had, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I do. I mean, so Ports and Maritime, we're quite a small team in the UK. We're spread across a few offices, but everyone's lovely. You can call up anyone at any time and just be like, I need help. I've got this problem, or I know you have some experience in this. Can you give me some guidance? Where can I find this document? And I think there's no such thing as a silly question. And I agree with Meegan. Just do your own research first, and remember that no one's trying to catch you out. No one is trying to trip you up. Even clients, if they're asking you a question, it's because they genuinely want to know and they don't know the answer. No matter how silly that question might seem, even from client side sometimes, is no one's trying to catch you out. Everyone's working towards the same goal. And actually, there's a lot of people, you say it, but genuinely there is no such thing as a silly question. We all started with no information at one point. We all started with a degree and no years experience. There is a lot to learn, and there's a lot to learn that isn't taught by various universities and covered in courses. And actually, those skills you pick up, you do, whether you realize you do or not. If you'd asked me 3 years ago, would I sit on a podcast? I would have been like, absolutely not. But here we are. It's all these important little things that you pick up from being in the office around people. I think being in an office environment as an early careers professional is so important. You need to be around your team, your people, and even sitting in the Plymouth office, we're a small office. There's only about 100 people down in the lovely seaside city. But, I sit around lots of different teams, and the amount of stuff you learn and you pick up just from listening to other people's conversations, not that you're eavesdropping, but just being around different professionals of different grades, you pick up so much, and you really can't substitute that with being online. So yeah, into the office, definitely, and just ask all the questions.
I love it.
So key.
Key. Thanks a lot for sharing that I think what's the advice, that guidance. It's powerful when it comes from two people who are going through what early career professionals are just about to step into. So yeah, it's advice, it's guidance, and it's invaluable as well. So Gemma, in terms moving into decarbonisation, has there been any work that you've been involved in with regards to decarbonisation? I
kind of fell into it a little bit. I think it's not something that was massively covered during my kind of learning. Education was kind of this sustainability piece with engineering, and I think that is starting to change at kind of education level. But I remember my placement year, kind of we were working on designs and just being like, we can do this better. We could do this better. We just need to think about it. And that kind of drive never disappeared. And quite early on in my time at AECOM, I got Envision qualified. So I'm qualified to take a project through the Envision certification, similar to what Meegan was saying about BREEAM. It's an infrastructure qualification accreditation scheme. And that really kind of drove home that, yeah, I am passionate about this and we can do this better. And I do carbon modelling, life cycle assessments, and I've worked on a few projects, kind of jumping in just to do that bit of the scope. So not necessarily working on kind of the core of the engineering design, but I know I worked on one project in Ireland, and it was a drainage scheme. So I know nothing about drainage, not my specialty at all. But I can look at a drawing and I can look at some pipe sizes and I can do the carbon model for that to determine, which option was the best from a carbon point of view. And actually that fed into the optioneering assessment. I've worked quite a lot on a project down in Plymouth Dockyard, Devonport, that we're doing carbon assessments of kind of our design and where we're at the moment, and what design changes have we made in the past that has affected carbon in either a good or a bad way, and kind of really sitting down and doing the maths behind that. And it's been really interesting because it is as simple as let's change up some materials, but it's not that easy. And you find a lot of blockers on a lot of projects is program. And, you've got engineers, you've got people that are minded to make these decisions, but they need time. And I think that's where a lot of the drive comes from. And I'm involved quite a lot of discussions at various levels through AECOM, the kind of developing workflows, how can we best bring our decarbonisation strategy to life for the people that are working on the design. So engineer level, it's all very well when we do a big strategy, but it's engineers doing the grunt work and making those initial design choices. How thick is that wall? What material are we going to use? How is this constructible? That need to be informed and, aware of kind of the wider implications of the decision they're making. And I guess I've waffled on a bit now, but that's kind of where I'm really passionate with this kind of decarbonisation stuff. And I think being an engineer and being into the decarbonisation, there aren't that many around that kind of do both. And actually, advice for kind of young professionals coming into the industry, do both. You become a really invaluable asset to any team. So, yeah.
It's a huge opportunity as well, especially with the demand for decarbonisation, the energy transition. It's an opportunity to lead and to kind of stand out.
Yeah.
So moving on to yourself, Meegan, in terms of work that matters, do you think that changes how you feel about your career path?
Yes. I mean, I think my perspective on how my work matters, or what I thought the work was going to be before I joined and doing it, and where I wanted to go, are three different things. So before I joined, I was like, I just really want to just get into the thick of it. I really want to understand how I can, best support the clients. But I didn't have that understanding of what their problems were and what their issues were and how I could add value to them. I think that these 2 years have shown me that, yes, the issues and the problems are very, very different because the sectors are different, because the way they operate is very different, client to client. But ultimately, they all have similar goals because they all have to meet certain targets or certain policy requirements, etc. And then where I want to be is I just want to continue doing the work I like, but potentially becoming more specialised. I think we talked about me being a generalist before, and I think that is the case with being a consultant. I did. I guess that is what a consultant is, but I think there is value in trying to become a bit more specialised in what you do, because there are people in my practice who are specialised. There's people who, like Gemma said, they're part of like decarbonisation. They just focus on carbon. They do a really good job at it. And then there's people in the practice who focus on like climate resilience and thinking about risk assessments and things like that. But then there are the people who are general as well. So I don't really know what I want. I guess it's also just keeping on your toes with all these changing world around us. The clients will be responding to different regulation changes. They will be responding to different issues, external or internal. And as a consultant, I think to add value to that, you need to be responsive and you need to try and understand where they're coming from and not just do like a copy paste job and say, I've done a similar, carbon management plan for X client. I'm just going to paste it onto Y client without actually thinking, how are they different and what's changed, and can we improve this deliverable? Can we improve the way we can help support them? I think it's always just trying to come fresh to each client and thinking, what can I do better this time? And I think that adds value and that makes work valuable and makes it matter ultimately in the end.
And what about yourself, Gemma? Work that matters, do you think it it contributes towards thinking about your career path? Is it important for you?
Yeah, I think because of the sector I've ended up working in, I've ended up working in defence primarily. And if you'd asked me at the start of, my uni course, would you end up working defence? I would have said no.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't deny that defence doesn't matter, especially kind of the way the world is at the moment. And living in Plymouth is driven by the defence industry. It's some of our biggest employers. We have a massive dockyard, and we are so driven by it, and you really struggle to not appreciate what the impact of the work we're doing down there is, and how many people it is affecting. And it's no small thing, and it's not a lie to say that one of the projects I sit on keeps the Navy operational. And that's kind of terrifying to think that one little project that we work on keeps the boats able to come in to port. And yeah, that matters. Whatever your opinions are on defence and defence spend, it is really important, and someone's got to do it. So why don't we do it? And why don't we do it to the best of our ability, in the most sustainable way we can, in the most kind of effective and efficient way we can, and bringing our stakeholders and bringing our community along for the ride, and let them see and let them appreciate how important it is as well. And I think for me, because we're a small team and work we win, we do get a little bit of like pick and choose what we get to work on. And I think for me, knowing what we're working on, what is the goal of that project? Is it to fix a leaky wall somewhere? Is it an inspection to, annual inspection for a pontoon or something? Or is it, something's fallen down, it's emergency works, can you go out and replace it? Or is it, we've got this load of funding, we're going to build something brand new? They're all kind of different variations of the same kind of exciting bit of engineering work that I like doing, and I like being able to do all of it. I like being able to pick why. And that does matter to me as well as kind of our clients.
So in terms of getting involved with extracurricular activities, societies, we know we talk about that a lot when it comes to students in terms of building soft skills and kind of the networking and collaboration. Have you been involved with much outside of your actual job role?
Yes. So at the moment, I sit as the office lead for social value and STEM down in Plymouth. So what that means is basically I get the joy of coordinating kind of all of our impact with schools. We're part of a network in Plymouth called Building Plymouth, which is basically something like 70 to 80 companies that are all based down in Plymouth, all construction companies, from tier 1, tier 2 contractors to kind of supply chain to consultants, and actually kind of the big 4 clients in Plymouth as well. And as part of that, there is a citywide social value goal. The city knows where it's going in terms of bringing people into construction. I think it's something scary, like Plymouth needs 12,000 new people working in construction in the next 5 years for the pipeline of work that's coming in. We don't have that many people down there. We need to entice people to Plymouth, yet alone kids into engineering and young professionals. And Plymouth is going to be a very, very different city in the next 5 to 10 years. And I'm so excited for it. It's going to be like, I want to be part of that change that's happening down there, and I want to live it and breathe it. And as part of what I do as the lead, we go out to schools, we do careers workshops, some of our more senior members of staff support with kind of mock interviews, the kind of CV skills, We have partnerships with some of the local schools where we get to go in and we deliver workshops. So I deliver a few workshops around offshore wind energy, because with all the floating offshore wind farms that are planned and are currently just going through licensing and leasing, we're looking at potential massive offshore wind farms in the Celtic Sea, which is a really big opportunity for Plymouth to get involved. And actually, those in school at this age, this day and age, that's a lifelong career in kind of 5-10 years when that comes down to industry. So they're perfectly placed to be like, yeah, I like wind turbines. I'm going to learn lots about wind turbines. And then when they come out of education, boom, there's an entire industry waiting for you that we are currently not set up to support. And that's a really big part of what we do in the Plymouth office. And, there are a lot of people in the office that support these initiatives as well. We're talking partnerships with some of our clients at the moment to really kind of drive home that social value and making sure that what we're doing is actually meaningful. And we are measuring the impact of what we're doing as an office, even the bits that we're doing that, majority of what we do is not prescribed by a contract, by a client. We're just doing it because it's the right thing to do. And, slowly we're convincing more people that actually it is quite fun to go and stand in front of a bunch of school children. Especially when you bring Lego into the mix. So, suffer the 5, 10, 15 minutes doing the presentation and then you get an hour of building Lego with children.
Yeah.
I mean, is that not worth some time away from the office? I think so.
Well, you'll be surprised the amount of engineers who it sparked their interest. It was Lego that I've spoken to over the last 2 years. So that Lego seems to be the trick of getting the engineers of the future.
Have you ever built a Lego offshore wind turbine though?
I have not.
Yeah,
no.
well, you're missing out.
You're
missing out. Sounds dangerous.
Nah, they're only 30 centimetres tall. But they spin.
Yes.
They're very realistic.
That sounds good.
They don't float though. We did try that.
Over to you then, Meegan. In terms of mentors and role models, has there been anyone in your career that's been pivotal, either as a support mechanism or someone that's helped drive you along the way?
Oh, there's been so many people. I think it's people before my career, before joining AECOM and then at AECOM. I think, honestly, it's just teachers. I've had really good teachers growing up. I studied in Saudi, did my GCSEs there, and I had an English teacher there who was really, really lovely, Miss Danbury. I had a lady in my college in Nottingham, Helen. She was great. She helped me out with my EPQ. But I've just really gravitated towards female role models, just because I find I'm a woman. I want to see how women operate in the office and do all that. And joining AECOM, I've been very, very lucky actually in my practice that there's been some key exceptional people. My line manager, Hayley, she will love me for saying this, but she's genuinely been one of the people in my practice who I can see a lot myself in terms of just the way she, communicates to people and how she really listens to her teams and really tries to make sure projects are going well and make sure everyone's accommodated for. Seeing how she's a project manager has definitely made me think how I would like to be one. My mentor, I have a mentor in the practice as well, Rebecca. She's great. I think the way that she thinks about problems and she tries to actually put her thoughts down in a logical way that makes sense and tries to, cut the... I'm going to try and find a nice word. She's going to try and cut the scraps away, and she really focuses on what's pivotal to the issue here. What do we actually need to communicate, and how can we communicate effectively? I just find I find bits and pieces of different people just really good, and I think as I'm progressing in my career, I'm realizing it's not just one person. There's characteristics and things you can get from different people, and you can go, oh, I really like the way that person has spoken in that presentation. I really like the way that they've put forward an idea, or I really like the way that that person has greeted the client and has really made them feel part of the project. I think there's role models in everyone in whatever you're looking for, and I'm just very grateful that in AECOM I can see and take bits of pieces of different people along the way and just kind of shape the career I'd like to go in. Because I think without those types of people, I would find it difficult to try and mold my career from scratch, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm very lucky.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing, and you've kind of clarified and confirmed, I guess, what's kind of quite consistent when I've spoken to engineers is that the variety of people that you get exposure to and you learn from. You don't have to be like one person.
No.
You can take bits from different people, and again, that's, I guess, reassuring for early career professionals that you're going through that yourself, and that there is lots of people who have had their own wee kind of impact or put their own wee stamp on your kind of development.
Yeah, and I think it's also just realizing that they got to this position as well through going through the twists and turns of their career. I've had very candid conversations with people in the practice being like, oh, how have you found this week? And they'll go, oh, dreadful. But I've learned this and this, and actually my day's going really well. I think before this job, I was very pessimistic as a person. Just an internal thing, but actually working with like people who are very like driven has made me more driven and has made me think, oh, I really want to be as positive as the people around me. And I think you are who you communicate with and who you try and take inspiration from. And I think I'm very lucky to work in a company that brings out the positivity in others. That's what I experience in my practice anyway. I'm sure Gemma does as well, because it sounds like both of our teams are great. So.
Over to you, Gemma, then. Why not? That's your
so I think because our practice group is quite small, there's very few there's much less kind of senior members of staff, but everyone is great. And I think I've got to give a shout out to my line manager, Roland. For the last 3 years, it's just been 2 and 3 of us down in the Plymouth office. So actually, we've worked on an awful lot of stuff together, from being out on site to writing the reports after and working on the bigger projects with him as kind of the team lead, and one of the engineers. And actually I've learned an awful lot from him, the way he conducts business, the way he handles clients. And actually, it's been really good to see. And I like the no nonsense approach, this is how it is. It's very much how I see myself being a project manager. We don't need to fluff everything up. This is the facts. And, Meegan, you were talking about female role models. There are some really key kind of females in our team, and I really do look up to them. And we had Tara. Hi, Tara. You were kind of our interim director for a little while, and actually, whether you realise it or not, you did an awful lot for me in your 6 months. And because of her, I've made some really big steps in my career. And, I've been out to conferences. I've had the confidence to then speak at one since. And, being able to see women in kind of those senior positions, it's really quite exciting, because you'll be like, actually, if they can do it, I can do it. And, don't get me wrong, all the blokes in our team as well, they're all fantastic. Yeah. And, it's such a supportive environment to be a part of. And, you're not seen as any different. And, you come into this industry as a woman, you know what you're expecting. You're walking into a team that is majority blokes. It's going to take a really long time before that changes, but it helps when everyone is so lovely. And, I instantly had respect at AECOM. I didn't have to work for that internally. And, you listen to from the off. And, where we are now is we've just taken on a graduate in our team, and actually it's showing him the same mentorship, giving him the advice that I was given, showing him the ropes in the same way I was shown the ropes, and showing him things that I've picked up along the way about, oh, you could do this way, you could do this way, but also actually being quite candid and open with like, actually, I don't know how to do that. Go and ask someone else, or let's look at this together. Let's set up a meeting. Let's talk it through, see where we get to. And actually, just because I've been here longer than he has doesn't mean I have all the answers. And, that probably reflects all the way up to the top levels of senior management. Just because you're up there doesn't mean you know everything. Yeah. And it's just, it's been a really supportive environment, and I really like it.
Awesome. That sounds like you've both got a very supportive environments where you feel comfortable to both express yourself, but also to lead in the work that you're doing. So we're getting close to the end. This has been an awesome conversation. What advice would you give to someone who's starting out in their engineering career?
A piece of advice I was given right at the start was find your niche. And I really like it, because everyone coming out of university is going to have a degree. Everyone coming out of an apprenticeship is going to have the same qualification. But, what sets you apart? What is your niche? Like, for me, it was the sustainability stuff and the passion for the kind of the STEM, the social value engagement. And that started off as a real kind of, this is nice, I'll just spend a bit of time looking at this. But has actually grown to be, part of my workload. Being able to kind of engage in those wider conversations with kind of the knowledge that actually I do know what I'm talking about, and I'm valued because of that. So yeah, find your niche and also sort your LinkedIn out. I know so many engineers now, graduates who are getting jobs because they have decent LinkedIns, because they've got connections. LinkedIn isn't the social media in the same way others are, in the sense that you need to know everyone that you connect with. You don't just be like, oh, they work for the company I'd like to work for. Connect with them. Follow along. Keep up with the industry. And I got my job by really struggling to find a graduate job, putting a cry for help out on LinkedIn. Somebody responded and I got an interview at AECOM. And yeah, sort your LinkedIn out. Get busy on there. Even if you're not posting much, just connect. It is your digital CV at the end of the day. And any recruiter, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to look you up on LinkedIn. Are the things you're claiming in your CV true? If you've claimed you've won some award, where's your LinkedIn post about it? Because that's the kind of stuff you want to put on there. So find your niche, sort your LinkedIn out. That's my 2 bits of advice.
Love it, Gemma. That sounds great. Fantastic. Over to you, Meegan. What advice would you give to someone starting out in sustainability?
Well, I found that quite interesting, finding your niche with the engineering angle, because I was instantly like, oh, sustainability for me is so broad. I feel like when you start or you're starting out, to almost try a bit of everything, see what you really like. I think it's almost like volunteering, see what you want to do. I think if you're really interested, show your interest. Again, it's like using LinkedIn. It's like, go out there. Do you want to work in, volunteer for the National Trust? Do you want to do a local litter picking? I did social value stuff at university because I was also interested in the STEM stuff and going out into schools and partnering with different charities and doing presentations and talking about sustainability to 10-year-olds. That's what I was really interested in when I was in my first couple of years of uni. Volunteering, being part of different societies, showing that you have something outside of your degree that you can really speak to and say, this is the thing that I'm really, really interested in. I think some people will tend to just think, oh, I'll just do my degree and that's it. Or if my degree has a placement, I can show I've done a placement. But I feel like placements are becoming so common nowadays. Not that they're a bad thing. I did a placement and I really enjoyed my placement, but I think it's showing what you do outside of the office when you're at uni. Are you really in office? But showing that kind of interest and passion is really key. And just trying to make connections. I think going out there and actually networking with different people. I went to a few Bright Network conferences during my time at university and speaking to students. Just engaging with people, even if they're not in the sustainability space themselves. It's just connecting with other young professionals, no matter what sector they're in, and just feeding off that ambition and feeding off that drive really helped me. I remember making friends with this girl in a conference who was really into biology. I don't know anything about biology, but she was so passionate. And I thought, we're going to be friends. And we still text each other and we still motivate each other to get out the door each day and do what we do. So yeah, I think it's just, I think it's very much what you're saying. Yeah, just connecting with people. It helps to connect with who you are and where you want to be, vice versa.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome advice. Love the LinkedIn advice. You're right, digital CV, 100%. And step out. Go to the events, connect, see people. I love it doesn't have to be in where you think your area is, because you just never know. And we've all got examples of that. So fantastic, amazing advice, and I know it will be invaluable for early career professionals as they begin their journey. So final question. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining me on the episode. So I'm going to start off with yourself, Gemma. What keeps you passionate about engineering?
Variety for me. It's being able to do lots of different things, and no report I've written is the same as a previous report. Each client, each project has its own problems, and I might have only solved it once before, but I like solving problems. I like something new. I would get very, very bored if I was producing the same reports over and over again. I like the fact that I'm constantly learning, and I hope that constantly learning never changes. And I hope that that's something that maintains throughout my whole career, because I love a challenge.
Love it. There's a quote. That's fantastic. Thanks a lot for sharing that. And to close us off then, Meegan, what keeps you passionate about sustainability?
Ditto. Like, I think Gemma's just stolen the words out of my mouth, to be honest.
Sorry.
No. I think because I had a conversation with my line manager this morning, and I was literally saying to her, it's literally no 2 days are the same. It's not just the project work; it's also the stuff we do around that. Researching clients, seeing what their problems are, writing proposals for different bids, understanding how we can apply our solutions to their problems. Everything's very, very different. I think it's also working with different people. Even if I'm working on, I don't know, a carbon management plan for different clients, that team I work with will always be different. I'll work with a different person who's reviewing it the first time and a different person who's reviewing the second time, because we have this TQR, technical quality assurance process, that we follow. And so it's almost like I get to chat to different people about similar problems from different projects, but I can see how other people will try and approach that problem differently, and it helps me build my understanding of problems going forward. And just, yeah, I think that's always quite fun, is, oh, I'm working with so-and-so on this project, and then I will work with them again until like 6 months' time on a different project, be like, oh, hey, how have you been? We're on the same project now. That's fun. So that makes things a bit more spicy, I suppose. But yeah, you did steal my answer, Gemma.
Oh, I like it. Projects are spicy. I like that.
Thank you.
We started the episode off with Gemma covering the LinkedIn games, and then the same again. So it's been great chatting to you both about your careers, and I know this is going to support early career professionals in their journey going forward. So thank you very much, Meegan and Gemma, for joining me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.